You
Yeah,
know,
I have to
honestly,
ask about the Torre situation where he spoke on the Biggie Smalls saying that he was fearful for his life in Cali. He had said that that was an interview that he did with Biggie that
yeah,
was talking about way before the East Coast West Coast beef, just more about him in the streets. And then
yeah,
for the documentary to use that to seem like he was in fearful of like Puff taking him to Cali. He said that that was a documentary from a long time ago. So I went back and watched, and yeah, they kind of placed it in a spot that you would think Biggie's talking about that moment right there. Now, mind you, I don't know what was exactly said and when, but they're running with the narrative. What are your thoughts on the narrative that the documentary put out?
I
Because
think there's a lot of narratives that the documentary is putting out. And like I said before, this documentary, if you didn't hate Diddy, it will make sure that you do. What I hate about it is how sanitized it is. And that's what I've been saying all along. It's sanitized. It's set up to make it seem like Diddy is the only bad guy when it's keeping out a lot of other people that were involved who had their hands involved in all kinds of things, which also makes it vulnerable for people to go after it. It, like I said, it's very clever. It's very, very, very clever.
now we
It's
have to.
just enough to make you hate the whole situation, but there's just enough misplaced and put in the wrong situation and this added here and this boom, 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 da boom, 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 da boom, 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 for you to be able to still have reasonable doubt on whether or not any of this stuff is real. Yeah, it's clever.
Would you call the documentary educational, informational, entertaining? Like where would you say this documentary
Gaslighting.
gaslighting?
And it's sad because there's a lot of stuff in there that's true, but there's enough left out to create doubt. And that's the same thing that happened with the trial. Actually, with the trial, it was a lot worse because with the trial, there was just a lot of stuff left out. There was more stuff in this documentary that was in that was in the trial. Half of the stuff in this documentary should have been presented at the trial. Can you imagine if they had had any testimony from Little Rod and the footage that he had from that incident, that firearm incident where the guy G was damn near mortally wounded and was losing his life, and the footage that he had from that? Can you imagine if that had been shown to the jury?
I could, man.
Like, why not? If it was available for them to get it from Little Rod to put it in a documentary, and Little Rock hasn't gone to trial yet, then why in God's name hasn't any, why did any of this make it to the feds?
That's a great question. Why didn't they even subpoena or
50
talk to?
cents, 50, Curtis Jackson announced in December of 2023, after Cassie's lawsuit came out, that he was going to be doing his own documentary. Isn't it very clever that all of this, alarming and damning stuff didn't come out of his documentary until almost 6 months after his verdict came in? 2 months after he had been sentenced? It was almost as if they were holding the documentary to not get in the way of his trial. Like, that's the thing that's tripping me out when it's coming to all of this Curtis Jackson praise that's coming on. And there's a lot of people online, especially here on the YouTube, that are sitting around doing all of this Curtis Jackson praise. Action, distraction, Jackson. Here to save the day. Oh, yes. And here he is. And 50 is doing, what's he doing? Because he announced that he was going to be doing a documentary on Diddy with Netflix a year before the trial was even set. That was December 2023. The trial was set December 2024. He announced that he was going to be doing this documentary before the raid. That was what? April, March 2024. He announced that he was going to be doing this documentary before the arrest. which is kind of interesting when you think about it, because the footage that he used, that he featured in this documentary, happened after he announced he was going to be doing the documentary.
Yeah. Yeah.
How lucky was that? What a find.
So
What a find that was. Like, let's think about that. He announced he was going to be doing the documentary December 2023 with Netflix. And the star footage that you use to get people to re-upload or resubscribe to Netflix to make this the number one in their TV shows division for almost 2 weeks straight, beating out Stranger Things. How much stranger is that?
I'm not
You,
Beckman.
you, this footage didn't even exist when you said you were going to be doing this documentary. So we've got a videographer, a rogue videographer that has this very, very, very explosive, you know, very explosive footage of him literally sitting on camera, planning how to go after survivors, how to poison the jury pool, how to fix his trial in advance before he's even arrested. I mean, like, is anybody not forgetting when Mark Garrett, when Garrett, no, not Garrett Goose, when Mark Agnafilo was sitting there talking to the sons in the hallway, and they're sitting there filming, and he's sitting up there. Yeah, well, see, what we got to do is we got to go and we got to put countersuits on all of these people. We have to create lawsuits ourselves. He's sitting there talking about creating lawsuits to affect public perception. He's talking about that with the kids
Man.
in the hallway of the hotel, but he didn't know he was being filmed. I also have, that's been very, very, very cute. And TMZ and Diddy, oh my God, we can't believe. No, you lost track of the footage. Question is how did they lose track of the footage? And so I guess this videographer was looking, because that happened fast for him to turn over custody. And
Fact.
he didn't give it to 50 cents. It went to Netflix. Netflix secured that footage. So then that means that somebody in the Netflix world was in communication with his private videographer that was filming him, fixing his trial before he even got arrested.
Which may make sense. Videographers kind of know each other, and they kind of move.
Videographers kind of know each other to
Yeah.
be able to make that move. Like, usually, if you're, even if he didn't get paid, usually it's like 90 days before you start. You got to put in an invoice and all of that stuff. Like, his business machine was still businessing. You telling me nobody around him? That sounds like that sounds like a setup to me.
Sounds like a setup.
It sounds like a setup to me. And when you think about the fact that, another conversation that we've been having, a lot of people aren't paying attention to the money behind the machine. BlackRock, Vanguard, owners of Diageo, the company that Diddy tried to go after and had to settle out of court for, with sealed findings, and nobody really knows how that turned out before his life got turned upside down and HSI came in raiding, grabbing all kinds of evidence and all kinds of stuff. They're part owners in Netflix. Did you know that?
That's information.
The very company that has allegedly been going out of their way to work with the higher ups to make Diddy's life a living hell have a stake in the platform that's now ruining what's left of his reputation worldwide. but after his trial, after he's been sentenced, with a bunch of shit in it that should have been obtained by the feds for their case.
A lot of question marks.
You know,
Let me,
RICO statute, it's using your business to commit crimes and do harm in multiple different ways, whether to people directly or financial abuse or whatever the case may be, correct?
there you go.
That's racketeer, that's the racketeering that's what that is, right? So if you got somebody in the studio that you done bang half to hell, and then you got your head of security disappearing the whole scene away, and ain't nobody heard, hide nor hear from this dude, know if he's dead or alive. And one of the witnesses got video footage of it, of the liquid DNA all over the floor from where he was trying to save his life. You don't think any of that would have, you know, if they had saw something like that, they might have not have had such a hard time believing Capricorn Clark's testimony.
Mm.
You don't think? I mean, since the Cassie video was just, you know, a bad boyfriend being really terrible to his stupid girlfriend who likes being treated like shit and dog walked and punted like a football and drugged back into a hotel room with a bunch of weirdo SEX workers. Like he was dragging her like a rag doll. Like he didn't just put his hands and his feet on her. He literally had a pimp drug her.
Real life.